We all know how dismally Snow White is performing at the box office. It is something that I and several other people have cataloged ad nauseum, but it's about time we start to take a look under the hood. Who constructed this disaster piece? And no, we're not just simply talking about the actresses involved. They're abysmal, and we've talked about that at length, okay? And Mark Webb, he's gotten a considerable amount of flack, but, I want to delve and just peel back the layers a little bit. It's something that I did, prior to the release of this film, and there was a name that I noticed early on in production that, well, just isn't there anymore. And I find that to be very interesting because, okay, cool. There are certain people that you can normally point to when a film is absolutely atrocious, okay? Like, normally people just run down the checklist. It's like, okay, were the lines delivered poorly? Okay, well, then you can go ahead and blame the actor. That's, just a general failing across the board for Snow White, okay? And when it comes to shot compositions and camera angles, well, yeah, you can directly point to the director, even though he generally, whoever sits in that chair, generally gets too much of the blame. Like Mark Webb definitely does deserve quite a bit. But normally the person who deserves the most blame whenever a film absolutely sucks on multiple levels, normally the writer. Okay, the screenplay writer, the dialogue writer, whoever's there in the writing or in the writer's room, that's the person who drives the plot forward, establishes the plot to begin with, and then tells the vacuous idiots what to say on film. And so for all of the well-earned criticism that we've heard Zegler and Gal Gadot and Mark Webb receive, the writers themselves haven't really received that much criticism. And like I said before, at the tail end of 2024 and even early this year, okay, because I remember talking about this as well, one of the few people that was actually pointing this out. And well, there's a name that was here at one point in time, okay? I got filmic evidence of this, okay? I got it on tape, okay? There was somebody else besides Erin Cressidia Wilson. Obviously, Snow White, the story itself is an adaptation of the Brothers Grimm, fairy tale and stuff like that, okay? So we won't hold that against them, that they just simply bastardized the source material far beyond whatever it was used, because what the original fairy tale is very, very dark, very, very, grim in and of itself, but it's also very brief. So Walt Disney, back in 1937, he actually managed to spin something that is so light on source material into, an 80 some odd minute classic. Not just one of the most important animated films, but one of the most important films full stop of all time in Hollywood. He did something magic. And I guess you could say the same about the Snow White remake, because it's also a different type of magic, accruing at this point in time a 1.5 rating on IMDb, only further dropping from there. But we got to give, for as much as we're going to give, Walt Disney and his crew the kudos they deserve for extrapolating on that source material. We got to talk about the person who bastardized this stuff, and Erin Cressidia Wilson. You deserve quite a bit of critique for your part, but I seem to recall, right? And there was a name that was attached to this, way back in the day, that is just bereft of any credits. And it's almost like somebody knew that something like this was on the horizon, because when you take a look at the full cast, okay, full cast and crew, you got everybody that's down here, everybody that's credited, produced by, music by, editing by, casting by, all of the stuff that's right there. There was a name that was announced when this film was first announced that is nowhere to be seen from here. Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot preview Mark Webb's live-action remake for Disney at D23. Ah, yes, that fated time when Rachel Zegler would initially run her mouth off so evidently so. Disney has offered up fans a first look at the live-action Snow White remake, starring Rachel Zegler from West Side Story fame and Gal Gadot. Kal-El, no! The first images from the film, directed by Mark Webb, were unveiled as part of Studio's D3 presentation, highlighting its upcoming slate of live-action animated features, which also spotlighted the work of its subsidiary, Pixar. Well, yeah, of course. Zegler said it was an honor to bring the classic back to life for a modern age. She said that for her character, the film was about finding a sense of agency, so she could be a just ruler and a wonderful queen. the Wonder Woman actress called the Queen an iconic villain and said getting under her skin was so delightful. Called the character so not me, but stretching herself, pause, to find her was delightful. The story, of course, follows the princess who is, yes, rescued by the 7 dwarf miners who make Snow White part of their household, and when she's exiled into a dangerous forest by her wicked stepmother. And oh boy, what we seen just a couple of weeks ago, yeah, it bears no resemblance to that. But the new Snow White pick will feature original songs by Oscar-winning La La Land duo of Benji Pasek and Justin Paul. Yeah, because, Princess Problems really stands up to the iconicness of, Whistle While You Work, Waiting on a Wish. They are still very much in the credits, okay? Yeah, original songs by them right there. But somebody who isn't, as brought up right here, Greta Gerwig and Erin Cressidia Wilson handled the screenplay adaptation. Interesting. Greta Gerwig, okay, if you remember her, she was the mastermind behind that insidious Barbie film from 2023, and she has other projects on the horizon. And, I thought this was going to be the opportunity to really blast this idiot for the world to see and expose her for the fraud that she is, but Greta Gerwig had limited involvement in Disney's live-action Snow White movie. I find this very interesting. I was hired for a couple of weeks. I did a pass. I wrote some jokes, okay? So she's out there talking about, oh yeah, no. I was going to be a part of it. It was going to be great. It was going to be fantastic. And then we got all of the backlash from the film and how it was just not going to be faithful. I knew that this would ultimately end up negatively affecting my career. And I just signed a big money deal with Netflix. So yeah, I better distance myself from this. So yeah, I was just there for a little while. I did a pass. I wrote some jokes, and she was announced as a co-writer in 2021, and she was still attached to the project as late as September of 2022, and I seen it. It was very much on the IMDb page. I was there, Gandalf. I was there months ago when she was still very much attached to this project, but now all of a sudden, oh yeah, no, I didn't do anything. Okay, I didn't do anything that was a part of the reshoots, the original shoots, the first draft, second draft. No, I didn't do any of that stuff because I've got an upcoming Narnia adaptation to do. Okay, which she described as, and she's talking about this, quite the Everest. I've been thinking about it since before I directed Barbie. It feels like a theme. Oh my God. I had written Little Women before I directed Lady Bird. Can we just go ahead and talk about you adapting one of the most beloved fantasy tales of all time? Like C.S. Lewis, right? He's up there on the Mount Rushmore of fantasy authors, right next to Tolkien, as they were, in fact, contemporaries and at one time very close friends. What else could you say? Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time, and his stuff. And yeah, for as much as he is just a lazy asshole that I'm sure we're going to talk about in the very near future, George R. R. Martin. I know I'm missing a bunch of people, but yeah, besides Lord of the Rings, I mean, like, Chronicles of Narnia is probably fantasy's most seminal work, and how Disney couldn't even get it off the ground. What was that when they were doing their movies? It's so wild, right? Like, I didn't watch any of those movies, but when it comes to Chronicles of Narnia, these are some books that I've actually read before. Like, I read through Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, blah, 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 easy for me to say, back in elementary school. Prince Caspian, The Silver Chair, and The Last Battle. I missed a bunch in the middle, which is it's just very odd reading order, but yeah, I really like this stuff, and I wanted to see those movies succeed, but I didn't really hear great things about them, and they ended up stopping. They got to Prince Caspian, and then after that they just kind of gave up. But now Netflix is going to be trying this and doing a whole, I think, great big cinematic outing, and they handed it to this absolute fucking idiot, because that's what Greta Gerwig is, okay? Like, if you want a real deep dive into her writing process, The Little Platoon, shout out to him. He does excellent work. He did a deep dive on Greta Gerwig's writing process for his Barbie review, and yeah, she is just an absolute moron. And this project, for as much as at one point in time, in a vacuum, right, hearing that there was going to be a big budget live just a big budget adaptation, I think probably doing it in an animated form would probably be for the best, because there's so many fantastical elements to this stuff. You got like a big talking lion who is an allegory for God. Well, now goddess, apparently, because a Barbie director rumored to pick Meryl Streep to play gender-swapped Aslan in a Narnia reboot. Oh my God, if Greta Gerwig was signed on to adapt the Bible, she would go ahead and cast fucking Beyonce to be Jesus Christ. I don't know, man. Okay. You're going to race swap who C.S. Lewis wrote to be God, a devout Protestant. You're going to do that, huh? Oh my god. Okay, for as many problems as I have, and especially in the shadow of the Hobbit films, like Peter Jackson, when he was cooking on Lord of the Rings, I think, it goes without saying, the guy knew what he was doing, okay? And he obviously has his own personal politics. I don't necessarily know them for sure. But when he did that sit-down interview, with Charlie Rose way back in the cut, when he was saying, you know what, when we were adapting the work of Tolkien, okay, we weren't going to put in any of our own messaging. This is about simply just paying homage to the source material. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're going to do. This is clearly not the case this time around, okay? The lightning simply struck once in regards to Lord of the Rings and that trilogy being as good as it is, because I guess that was a deal that somebody struck way back in the day. You can go ahead and have those 3 films as excellent as they are, but everything else is gonna fucking suck wholesale, because holy shit, man, like, it was always just this was always going to be stupid. But you could think, okay, there's like an outside shot, okay, like even a broken clock is right twice a day, so perhaps Greta Gerwig could pull this off, and this is just at least a complete retelling of the Chronicles of Narnia, and at best they'd be inoffensive. But if you're seriously, I'm not even being hyperbolic, you're gender swapping God. What? Okay. Greta Gerwig, director of Barbie, is reportedly planning to gender swap Aslan, the lion who represents a Christ-like figure in C.S. Lewis's iconic Chronicles of Narnia series, for her upcoming Netflix adaptation of The Magician's Nephew. Okay, so what, you're going chronological? Because yeah, that's the first chronologically, but like the 5th or 6th book release in the series. According to Nexus Point News, none other than Meryl Streep is in talks to voice the reimagined Aslan, which is like, okay, cool. It's like, yeah, if you can work with Meryl Streep, I mean, you're not going to find a better actress that's out there, okay? But I mean, her as the queen, that would be better casting, but no. It's Aslan, because that makes sense. Netflix, in partnership with Gerwig, yes, appears to be taking Narnia in a drastically different direction. Lewis, a devout Christian, infused his novels with unmistakable Christian allegory. Aslan, the great lion, was not just a guide or a wise creature. He was a literal stand-in for Jesus Christ in Lewis's fictional universe, sacrificing himself in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to atone for the sins of Edmund Pevens. He's shaved, beaten, and ridiculed while strapped to the stone table where his life ends, only to rise again as a powerful illusion of the resurrection. To the resurrection, rather. Swapping the gender of Aslan doesn't change a character, it rewrites the spiritual heart of the entire series. Exactly. Instead of having a Christ-like figure, you're going to go ahead and have a motherly figure, because that's not going to change the story at all. We're doing an adaptation. We don't have to be one-to-one, right? This move, if confirmed, could mark one of the most radical reinterpretations of the beloved literary figure in recent memory. Yeah, because as much as I said, right, like those Disney films weren't exactly the most, they didn't set the world on fire at all, but at least they were somewhat faithful, right? Aslan isn't just a male because Lewis flipped a coin. His masculinity is intentionally tied to the Christian symbolism behind the character. In the 2005 to 2010 Walden Media films, Liam Neeson, yes, voiced the lion with quiet power and authority. Yeah, because Liam Neeson has that voice, okay? That's pretty good casting. Emphasizing Aslan's sacrificial and redemptive role. Now with Gerwig reportedly bringing on Meryl Streep, who hasn't appeared in a film, since 2021's Don't Look Up. Really? Okay. The portrayal could pivot towards a completely different tone. Yep. And that's not just the casting. Reports say Gerwig's adaptation of The Magician's Nephew will be the first of her 2-movie Netflix deal. Oh, thank God. The damage can only run so deep. Though Netflix apparently plans to produce 8 Narnia films in total, with or without her. Some names rumored to be in the cast include Daniel Craig, Charlie XCX, and Saoirse. That's all I need to see, man. This is abhorrent. It's so funny, man, how it's always, when it comes to these race and gender swaps, how they always tend to go in one direction. But by the time that this film comes out, like, does it even have a preemptive release date? Yeah, Thanksgiving theatrical release in 2026, followed by December Netflix premiere. If the rumors are true, it's only a matter of time before the outrage builds. Yeah, exactly. Okay. But if they're supposed to be that quick of a turnaround on something that's going to be this intensive and something that's going to be this big budget, yeah, we're going to start hearing confirmations, kind of like we're going to be hearing proper confirmations for the Harry Potter TV series, which, yeah, Nick Frost, the good casting for Hagrid, but Black Snape, That's a no-go on that series, something I was looking forward to. And if you're going to have female Aslan, it's like it's not going to be the story that I know, and it's not going to be one that I'm wanting to hear, especially if it's from the twisted mind of Greta everything is a feminist problem Gerwig. Fuck off. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.